Hello, everybody. How are you doing on this fine Monday? I am doing very well. We are here to talk a little bit more about some of the Bam Margera situation. Now, when I started working on this case, it wasn't really personal for me because I wasn't a fan of Bam Margera. I didn't really know that much about him, and I really hadn't kept up with any of the Jackass people for years. Of course, I knew Steve-O existed, whatever, etc. But I didn't have like a ton of a personal interest or personal investment in this case. But as the case has gone on, much like in the Britney Spears case, the players involved have either mentioned me or made deliberate steps to try and stop me in some way or another. It's very familiar to me. It feels exactly the same. And as I've been doing my research in this case, I've noticed a lot of overlap between Britney Spears' conservatorship case and Bam Margera's guardianship situation. And of course, his series of court ordered treatments. I've been saying that since the beginning. And what we're going to talk about today in these court records, I have them here, and we're going to pull them up on the screen, is that I wasn't even the first person to really compare the two cases. In fact, it was Bam Margera himself. Bam Margera says in this lawsuit that his situation is similar to Britney Spears's. So, what I want to do first is just look at a few clips of some of the ways that the PR team, basically, for whoever it is that's behind all of this, has been calling people who refer to the similarities or who point out the similarities between Britney and Bam's treatment as conspiracy theorists. And y'all, again, that is why I don't even care. I just call myself a conspiracy theorist because what they try to do is use these sort of derogatory dog whistles towards us when we're making these connections, but we're not even the first people who are doing it. It's just a way to try to shut people up. Unfortunately, this team has become the boy who cried wolf, as far as I can see, because they have called us conspiracy theorists so much that the term has really lost its punch. It's lost its meaning. You can't just use a word over and over in ways where it doesn't actually describe that word and expect that word to continue to maintain its meaning. It just can't work. So let's see a few different ways that they've called us conspiracy theorists. And it looks like they're calling me the conspiracy theorist, but I'm not the only one saying this stuff. So let's look into these clips. Then we'll get into the court document itself, and we'll see in black and white in official court filings who it was who first compared Bam Margera and Britney Spears' situations. Because I promise you, spoiler alert, it wasn't me. So here we have this December 2021 podcast, the Wild Ride podcast. This is Brandon Novak, one of the Jackass rejects, and he has a business affiliation with Banyan Treatment Centers. I know I keep talking about the Broward County Police body camera footage, and we will get to it. It's taking a little longer to edit. But in that Broward County Police body camera footage, Bam said he wanted to go to a Banyan treatment center and that Novak was helping him to get placed there. So this is Novak. This is Brandon Novak right here. And let's just listen to a few second clip between Brandon Novak and Steve-O talking about the Bam Margera conservatorship situation.
The good thing is now is he's under a conservatorship.
And then Steve-O looks like he freaks out, right? He's like, well, it's a guardianship. It's not a conservatorship because there's not money involved.
And it's not a conservatorship, it's a guardianship.
Oh, really?
The conservatorship has...
Britney Spears.
It's Britney, bitch.
Financial implications with the conservatorship.
So there you see in December 2021, the guy on Steve-O's podcast, I do not know that guy's name. Couldn't be bothered to look it up. But he said, like, Britney Spears, right? So you see it there on Steve-O's face, like, I'm just speculating. But Steve-O didn't really look like he wanted Bam to be compared with Britney Spears. It seemed like they were trying to differentiate Bam's situation from Britney's situation. And don't take my word for it. We're going to see just a few more clips.
They're in charge of all of your money and everything. A guardianship, they kind of leave.
So Steve-O seems to be very concerned with this guardianship versus conservatorship distinction. And we've spoken about this many times already on this channel. I'm not going to get into what the difference is. I'm not going to get into what the differences are between conservatorships and guardianships. There are some in some states. The bottom line is conservatorships and guardianships are the same thing. But Steve-O is trying to say Bam's situation isn't like Britney's, specifically because there is no financial component to the conservatorship that Bam was under. First things first, I don't know if that's true. There could absolutely be financial implications to this conservatorship. We'll take Steve-O's word for it and say that there's not. But Steve-O should have done a little bit more research into the Free Britney movement and what it was we were really mad about. We got into the conservatorship and cracked the case by following the money. But when we started advocating for Britney Spears' rights, we were advocating for her human autonomy before her money. Of course, there was always this money component because people were in charge of her money. People had conflicts of interest. People seemed to have been unjustly enriching themselves from Britney's money. That was a concern and remains a concern today. But we did not go after this whole conservatorship regime just because of money. We went after it because Britney was being held against her will. Something that Bam Margera just said on Cameo 2 or 3 days ago happened to him.
I have completely graduated from all the 10 rehabs that I've been to against my will. I can tell you this, I got caught in something called the Florida Shuffle.
He said he was held against his will at 10 different rehab centers, okay? So I'm going to just need Steve-O to get it through his clown world mind that we were not upset about the Britney Spears situation solely because money was involved. So if you could stop using that as a talking point, that would be appreciated. Otherwise, we're going to have to continue to make videos like this, okay? Which I'm happy to do. So let's watch a few more clips and then we'll get to that court document.
Your money out of it.
Yeah.
And the guardianship, they're just like kind of, there's rules you have to abide by.
Sure.
What we were trying to do was file what's called an LPS conservatorship. It's the equivalent of a guardianship in, in the grand understanding. It's that guardianships are called LPS conservatorships in LA and California.
Conspiracy theories and crazy stuff swirling around Bam. I would love to set the record straight. Bam has not ever been under a conservatorship. The temporary guardianship he was under did not ever have any financial implications.
What we were trying to do was file what's called an LPS conservatorship. It's the equivalent of a guardianship.
He's like forced to be in.
How long do you have to be like that for?
I think that, I don't know that if we're really even allowed to talk about it too much.
Another consistency that I see between Britney and Bam's conservatorships is that people around it are not sure how much they're really able to disclose. There's this sort of cult of secrecy surrounding the celebrity conservatorships. I don't know how much we're allowed to talk about it. Like, okay, well, if it's so good for them and it's so good and all that, then you should be shouting it from the rooftops. But even here, you see a little bit of a disconnect between Steve-O's words and his actions. Oh, I don't know if we're allowed to talk about it, but he's talking about it enough to differentiate it between Britney's conservatorship, isn't he?
But as I understand it, it's like...
Now, it's important to understand the context of the timeline. Y'all know I am timeline queen. So what we're looking at right now, this interview or this podcast appearance by Brandon Novak on Steve-O's Wild Ride podcast is from December, obviously 2021. Bam had filed his lawsuit against Paramount and MTV in August 2021. So 4 months before this podcast appearance, Bam had sued MTV, Paramount, Jackass, Jeff Tremaine, Johnny Knoxville, all of them. So this lawsuit was active and ongoing at the time that this podcast was released. Now, another thing that's important to note for timeline purposes is that Bam was put into a guardianship in June 2021. So Bam gets put in the Arizona guardianship June 2021. August, 2 months later, he sues. He compares himself to Britney Spears in the lawsuit. December 2021, 4 months later, Novak and Steve-O are talking about the conservatorship on the podcast. Your speculation is as good as mine as to why it is that they decided to do that at this time. But I'm just telling y'all the facts at this point as far as the timeline.
Still happening.
Yeah,
We'll leave it at that.
And the good thing is
And I'm like, oh, okay, all right, that's all I need to hear. Okay, time to investigate.
Now, let's talk about this conservative.
So that was in December. You have Brandon Novak appearing on the Wild Ride podcast. Now, I find out about the case around February. I start doing research. Other people start doing more research. They start looking into it, and the free BAM movement basically takes off. So in May 2022, earlier this year, Bam Margera appears for a recording on the Wild Ride podcast, but that interview was not published until just last month in August, right? So we're going to look at some clips from August where Steve-O is yet again attempting to differentiate Britney Spears' situation from Bam's on the Wild Ride podcast. Let's take a look.
Conservatorship nonsense.
Right.
Britney Spears had a conservatorship, which has financial implications in which, like, she had no control of her own money and other people could spend their own money. And despite, like, conspiracy theorists online trying to say that a guardianship is the same as a conservatorship, it's not. It's not. A guardianship is the same as a conservatorship. It's not.
Grand understanding, it's that guardianships are called LPS conservatorships in LA and California.
It's not. Conspiracy theories and crazy stuff swirling around Bam. Let me ask you, you said about this living without your phone, living with all of these, like, what's been going on with that? Because I've seen a lot of activity on social media with the hashtag #FreeBam. And people seem to think that you're the Britney Spears of Jackass. The evil villains have taken over your life and stolen all your money. And, like, can we safely say that none of that is true?
I don't know what's been going on because I haven't been able to look.
The Britney Spears of Jackass. The Britney Spears of Jackass.
I think it's very important to listen to the actual words that people say. Steve-O said, people seem to think you're the Britney Spears of Jackass. And then he put some other stuff in and said, can we safely say that none of that stuff is true? Bam did not say it's not true. He actually smirked a little bit. Let's look at Bam's face one more time when Steve-O says that on the Wild Ride podcast. Watch Bam's face when Steve-O says, the Britney Spears of Jackass.
The Britney Spears of Jackass. The evil villains have taken over your life and stolen all your money. And, like,
so listen to the actual question that Steve-O asks and listen to Bam's answer.
Can we safely say that none of that is true?
I don't know what's been going on because I haven't been able to look.
The Britney Spears of Jackass. The Britney Spears of Jackass.
So Bam does not refute that. He does not say, my situation is nothing like Britney Spears. And I feel like if he said anything of the sort, they would have included that. I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe Steve-O edited that out along with the other stuff he edited out. But let's look now finally at the court document itself. Now, I am not reading this court document word for word. I only want to look at the part of the court document that Bam compares himself to Britney Spears. If y'all want to do a line-by-line reading of this court document, please comment below, and I'm more than happy to do that. I just didn't want to get all in the weeds because this court document, this whole lawsuit has been settled between the parties involved, but I didn't want to do this whole line-by-line reading if y'all don't really care about that. If y'all want me to read it, comment below and I can put that on the rotation. For now, let's just look at the lawsuit. The first page you can see here. It's a complaint. It was filed August 9th, 2021 by Bam, and it was for a lot of different counts. I mean, there were a lot of different causes of action. There's 14 different causes of action violating the Employment Act, unlawful retaliation, which would violate the California Employment Code, wrongful discharge, so it's like another employment thing, breach of contract, breach of good faith, intentional infliction of emotional distress, fraud, fraudulent inducement, fraud, false promise, violation of the Unruh Civil Rights Act. So there's a lot of stuff he's accusing them of in this lawsuit. Again, this has been settled, but let's look at the relevant page in question so that we can all see together in black and white what's actually going on with this lawsuit. Okay, so I've highlighted it here. As you can see, it was filed August 9th, 2021. This is on page 4 of the complaint. And you can see this document, if I'm not mistaken, in my Google Drive, which is linked below. If not, y'all comment and I'll put it in there. But I did get this document. I've read it all. So it's paragraph 10. It says, paragraph 10. It says, unfortunately, traumatic as Margera's experience may have been, it is not uncommon. Only recently have brave individuals felt empowered enough to come forward with their stories. Okay. So again, for the timeline, this lawsuit was filed August 9th, 2021. Last year, over a year ago, it was filed. So what we're reading here is from August 2021. I did not become aware of the Bam Margera conservatorship fiasco until February 2022, 6 months before I ever knew about this Bam Margera guardianship conservatorship fiasco. Okay. So this 6 months before I came on the scene, and it says, unfortunately, as traumatic as Margera's experience may have been, it is not uncommon. Only recently have brave individuals felt empowered enough to come forward with their stories. And he cites Britney Spears conservatorship explained, the CBS News story. Now, the next sentence in the parentheses says, noting Britney Spears, arguably the world's most famous pop star, is fighting for changes to her court-appointed conservatorship, which has controlled her career and finances since 2008. As under the, quote, abusive conservatorship, she was forced to take strong drugs after refusing to perform, stopped from removing, I don't know if I can say that on YouTube, device, and has been allowed little to no privacy. Okay. So this lawsuit goes into all of the grievances that Bam Margera has against Paramount and MTV. And I do want to show y'all one interesting thing from this lawsuit. I mean, it's several pages long, but look. For example, page 22 from the same lawsuit we're reading right now. It's completely redacted, right? Look, the page before it, redacted, right? This is the page before. When we flip the page, completely. There's not one word. There's not one word on this page we can read. See the next page. This is the breach of contract section. Now, one thing that will be interesting is if I can get this unsealed for my lawsuit, since there's all kinds of things I now need to prove to defend myself in this meritless defamation case, it'll be very interesting to subpoena the unredacted lawsuit. The whole contract section is redacted. If y'all want to get more into the whole saga of what actually happened back and forth in the court documents, just let me know. But I did want to make a very quick video today and just tell y'all, when you hear the term conspiracy theorist coming from any of these people who are running PR for this conservatorship, just remember all the times they've called us a conspiracy theorist before. And turns out what we were saying was actually correct. Like, they're trying to say you're the Britney Spears of Jackass. Well, look, baby, I'm not the first one who compared Bam Margera and Britney Spears. It was Bam Margera himself in his court filing against Jackass, MTV, Paramount, Johnny Knoxville, Jeff Tremaine, Spike Jonze, and the rest of them. So just keep my name out your mouth unless you're going to get the facts correct, Steve-O. I would love to sort out any remaining disagreements that me and Steve-O may have in person, maybe on the Wild Ride podcast, maybe on someone else's podcast, or even on my personal channel right here. I really don't care where we do it. But all this stuff with the conspiracy theorists and all that, Steve-O has never made one attempt to reach out to me. He's never made one attempt to ask me where I'm coming from, what's going on. He's decided based on just YouTube videos that I don't know what I'm talking about. And it's very interesting that that's exactly what they are claiming that I am doing. Although I have offered many times to speak with these people. And whenever I do it, only thing I get accused of is trying to clout chase. No, I'm not trying to clout chase. I'm trying to protect my reputation and protect my good name. They're out here saying these false, damaging statements about me, and I would like to clear it up in person, but they are not giving me the opportunity to be heard. I'm giving them the opportunity to be heard because I've asked them many times to come on this channel. I've asked them many times, I'll go on somebody else's third party channel, an equal neutral channel. I want to get to the truth and I want to get to the bottom of this. But continuously calling us conspiracy theorists is not going to work. It has not worked. I do not know why they continue to do it. It doesn't work and it hasn't worked. So that's all I really wanted to say today. Bam Margera basically called his own self the Britney Spears of Jackass. I was just looking and reading at the documents, and I just happened to notice a lot of similarities. I'm going to keep looking into it, though, because I got several years worth of defamation lawsuit to get through, and it's not going to be out of sight, out of mind anytime soon. Facts ain't defamation. Love you, mean it. Okay, bye.